What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my banner review of the Risk and Reward banner, which features duo Nina, Thief Sothe, Leila, Cath and Rickard. I'll also be going over a lot of the builds that you can run on them and how you can make use of some of the fodder which they provide, especially the Kanto inheritable weapons. So let us begin with the star of this banner, duo Nina. So this time she is a colorless dagger cavalier with shadowy quill as her preferred weapon. So this has got Kanto recall built into it, which means that after any kind of action she can return to her starting position. So this is not the regular Kanto, but this kind of Kanto can be really helpful for destroying duo hindrance structure in something like Aether Raids or even in Summoner Duels for just hit and run. So this is going to be very useful, but it is still going to be susceptible to Kanto control. This weapon can provide her with +3 attack, and if she initiates combat or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can get the adaptive damage, which is really good for attacking many of the lopsided foes which have a lot more defense than resistance. She can also get +6 attack and speed in combat, and then she can deal true damage based on the higher of her own buffs or the debuffs on opponent stats. So for example, if she's got +6 attack buff and the opponent has got -7 defense debuff, then she's going to be able to get 7 true damage because the debuff was higher than her own buff. So it's not going to be adding up, it just takes the value which is higher than the other. So this can allow her to do a lot of damage with her duo skill, which can easily get so many debuffs and also panic the opponents. So this duo skill can allow her to move 1 space, which is really threatening, especially when you combine this with Pathfinder of duo dagger, note and stuff like that. And she also has Kanto recall, so it definitely has a lot of potential. And she can debuff any kind of foes for -7 to all of their stats and panic if they are in the cardinal direction of her or if they've got any kind of penalty active on them. And it's pretty easy to get the penalty active on them with her chilled skill in her slot B or the debuffs from her dagger. And this duo skill can be used every 3 turns. She also has the dual effect built into it, which can allow her to score as a 195 BST unit in Colosseum game modes like Arena. So Nina definitely has some pretty powerful stuff with her duo button and also her weapon. And she also has good stats to go with it, with 37 base attack and 43 base speed, which both have super boon in it. Even though her attack stat might not seem the highest in the modern times, she can still hit deceptively hard because of the adaptive damage that she has got and the true damage that she can get either based on her own buffs or the foe's debuffs. Now of course, if she faces an opponent with something like Distant Defense 4 and they have a debuff neutralization skill, then she's not going to be able to get any kind of true damage. And she also doesn't have access to null follow-up being a cavalry unit, and while she does have lethality, she doesn't really have an easy way of pre-charging it, and she cannot really get the infantry pulse support like Yuri can for pre-charging his lethality. But despite that, she's still going to be a pretty strong unit for Aether Raids and also for Summoner Duels, and she does come with a new tier 4 skill in Chill Defense Resistance 3. So this is the first inheritable 300 SP slot B skill that we have got, and this means that the arena score ceiling has gone up for a lot of units. So this tier 4 chill skill is actually a lot better than the usual chill skills because it can debuff multiple foes at the same time. So at start of turn, if any of the foe who has got the highest defense and resistance total, she's going to be targeting them and any kind of foes within 2 spaces of them for -6 defense and resistance debuff. And this is of course really good with the true damage that she can get and also for supporting her allies. And like I said, this is going to be useful in Arena because you can have 300 SP passives and score a lot higher with certain units. So Duochrome for example can score like a 205 BST unit, and Ascended Idun and Halloween Sothe can also score the same because of the fact that we got Distant Counter Sacred Seal for dragons this month, which is the first 300 SP Sacred Seal. So by combining a lot of the 300 SP passives and Distant Counter Dragon Sacred Seal, dragons can actually score higher now, which is good. But this is still going to be occupying the slot B. A unit like Duochrome can easily run this skill in his slot B because even without lull attack defense in his slot B, he can still be a very powerful unit. But someone like Idun would definitely miss a fighter skill. And Legendary Mirror can also score a lot higher as a wind legendary unit. I wouldn't really recommend most free-to-play players or most players in general to chase after this kind of skill just for arena scoring, but still this is something possible and I wanted to go over it. Nina already comes with a pretty good base kit, so you just need to give her something like Blade Session or Attack Speed Solo so that she can get more offenses. Summoner Duels is going to be one of her main game modes, and she could be run there with different builds depending on the captain skills available at the time and the units that you have in your barracks. For example, a Droid Captain is one of the available captain skills as of right now, so you can easily run that and run her with Water Sweep or Wind Sweep. Whenever Secret Maneuver is going to be available, she can use that to pre-charge a lethality a bit easily, but without that, pre-charging a lethality could be a bit annoying, so that's why you can run some other specials like Ruptured Sky or Moonbow. Ruptured Sky can be helpful against the dragon units and the beast units that are going to be facing, and you can also run her with Fallen Lilith so that she can get the null follow-up and still run Wind Sweep or Water Sweep, so those are always going to be the options there. I think Nina is going to be the most annoying when Erosion skill is going to be available, which can just let you ignore the save skills of the opponents, so she can just hit and run, and your save tanks can no longer save you like they usually can against Nina, because she's going to be having a tough time breaking through a lot of them, especially if they run Hardy Fighter and something like Deflect Missile. And because she does have the adaptive damage, you can always run Loud Speed Resistance on her, because most units are going to be having lower resistance than defense, so it can help you in combat many times. And you can also run Pulse Smoke to pulse down the pre-charged specials of the enemies and the Hardy Fighter armors, so Pulse Smoke is always going to be useful in Summoner Duels. Her builds are quite flexible for Summoner Duels, but you definitely have to watch out for Canto Control. You can also use her in Aether Raids offense for hit and run by running Disarm Trap, and because of Canto Recall, she's going to be a pretty nice hit and run unit as long as there's no Canto Control on the enemy team. She can also go ahead and destroy duo hindrance structure, so if you're going to be using duo units like Ninja Korin, Harmonic Azura, Ninja Lin, all of these self-refreshing units, then it is going to be really helpful to destroy that hindrance structure, and Nina can help you with that. But again, do watch out for Canto Control, because Medius is going to be present in the Light and Dark season, so that's why in the Astro season it is going to be a bit easier, but still the higher echelon teams in Aether Raids do run Canto Control, and that is one of the things which you always have to watch out for and check the skills for. If you don't really have Disarm Trap available, then you can also run her with Wings of Mercy as a hit and run unit. So Wings of Mercy can be really nice, and she can basically warp across the map with this. So you can run that if you lack the fodder, and she could of course be used in Aether Raids Chaos season as well. And if you do plus and merge her, then she could be used in Arena as a scoring unit. So she can score as a 200 BST unit because of having the 300 SP passives, and with the dual skill in her duo weapon. She's not the highest scoring duo unit like Duo Crom for example, but still she's gonna be seen quite a bit there. And for once, I'm kind of glad that I'm late to making this banner review, because Nina actually got access to one of these skills from the Chooser Legends banner in form of Speed Preempt, which she can definitely run at max investment. Now, she doesn't really have the damage reduction in her special like Brave Byleth, but you can definitely try and emulate that with Speed Smoke 4. So the debuffs can always help you get the true damage, and Speed Smoke 4 can basically give you that damage reduction if she fails to kill something with Speed Preempt. And with a unit like Nina, who can get the true damage and also get the adaptive damage, she can actually vantage and one-shot quite a bit of units. But of course, units who are bulkier and have damage reduction are going to be able to survive. But still, this is going to be a pretty nice max investment option. Thief Leila is a red mage flyer this time around with Soothing Scent as her preferred weapon. This has got Canto Ally 2 built into it, so after any kind of action of hers, she can move to a space adjacent to any kind of ally within 2 spaces. So it definitely makes for a pretty nice retreat option, and she doesn't really need to run a Fought Ray skill in her slot B. This weapon can give her -1 special cooldown, so Moonbow becomes a 1-turn special, and she can also get +6 attack and speed in combat. And if she's got more speed than the opponent, then the foe cannot make a counter attack. So this is basically like a conditional fire sweep effect which she can have access to, and after the combat she can deal 10 damage to her target and any kind of foe within 2 spaces of that target. So with this weapon, Leila is easily able to chip down the enemy units by stacking up skills like Poison Strike, Savage Blow along with this weapon, and she also has base 38 attack and base 43 speed, both of them having super boons, and her other stats are not going to be that much relevant because most of the time in the player phase she should be fast enough to avoid any kind of counter attack and get her conditional fire sweep effect. Leila also has a new skill in Defense Res Smoke 3, so this can inflict -7 defense and resistance debuff on the target foe and the foes within 2 spaces of them, and also gives +6 attack buff to herself and any ally within 2 spaces of her. It also gives the Pathfinder effect to Leila for 1 turn. So this is definitely a bit more niche than Speed Smoke 4 and Attack Smoke 4, which we got before, because Pathfinder is really useful, but when you're going to be getting it after the combat, it is mostly going to be useful if you have Canto, like Leila's weapon, or if you have any kind of trace skill, or if you're going to be using this in a Catria Ball in Aether Raids defense, where in the Dark Season, usually Catria Balls run Medius as their mythic, so getting the Pathfinder after the combat could be useful. And Pathfinder can also be pretty nice with allies who have got the Clash skills, like Brave Sothe for example, because Pathfinder space is counted as 1 space moved, so you can actually get more stats out of the Clash skills. So overall, this is a bit of a niche skill, so you're not going to be seeing it that much compared to Speed Smoke 4 or Attack Smoke 4. Overall, Leila ends up being a pretty nice red mage flyer who's unique because of the fire sweep effect that she can get, and also the chip damage that she can provide, and the Canto ally is of course only present in her weapon as of making this video. So if you want to build her up, then of course you can stack up skills like Poison Strike, and her slot B is rather flexible because she already has Canto in her weapon, so as it is, there are not too many options available, so Poison Strike is going to be the budget option that you can run. And this is pretty good because you can do that chip damage and stack it up with her weapon, and because she's mostly going to be functioning in the player phase, Blade Session Sacred Seal is something that you can run on her. She can also run a double Savage Blow build, which can stack up with Soothing Scent for 24 splash damage, which is really helpful, and you can also run her with Aerobatics and Attack Speed Unity if you want to invest a bit more into her. Speed is definitely the main IV you should try and get because it is responsible for giving her the fire sweep effect, but if you want to ascend an IV, then attack is definitely going to be the option. Aerobatics is going to be having nice synergy with the Unity skill and also with the Canto skill that she has got in her weapon. And speaking of Canto, you can actually run a Fortress skill on her so that she has an additional option of retreating like 1 space back and not just retreating near her allies. So this is not exactly going to be stacking up with the Canto, but it essentially gives you an extra option when your Canto is going to be activating. So you have both options from the Fortress skill and then from the Canto ally too, so it can definitely help you retreat a bit better in many situations. And like I said, there are not too many slot B options for her, so this can also provide the debuffs and more Canto options. And you can also run a range skill on her if you want to get the in-combat debuffs. And like I explained before, Bridal Catcher teams do appreciate the Defense Res Smoke 3 support from Leila, so she can definitely be used there. And she can get the brave hits with the help of Bridal Catria, and unfortunately she doesn't have access to null follow-up, so she cannot really quad attack that easily against many of the tanks, but getting the brave attack is still pretty nice, especially with the chip damage that she can do with double Poison Strike against many of the safe tanks. And then the smoke skill can give you the Pathfinder. Finally, at max investment, she can also run Speed Preempt just like Duo Nina, but she's not going to be having the adaptive damage or the true damage like Nina, but she does have the splash damage with double Savage Blow in her weapon, and range flyers don't really have too many options, so this could be an option at max investment if you can afford to. Unity skill is something that I would recommend because she can also be protected against the debuffs, and you can get the Cat skill with Brave Violet and Speed Preempt, but the Cat skill doesn't have the best synergy with this kind of chip damaging skills because the additional effect does require the enemy to be at full HP. Thief Sothe is the 4-star focus unit of this banner, and he's a green dagger flyer with Florid Knife Plus as the inedible weapon. This has got the flat Canto 1 built into it, and it can also provide him with +5 attack and speed in combat. So it's actually a pretty nice inedible dagger because of the flat Canto, and it can definitely be given to many of the dagger dancers like Tethys, Dorothea, and it can even be run on some merch project like Cath because infantry units don't have access to Canto. And keep in mind that this is the flat Canto 1. It's not exactly Fortress, so it is still going to be giving you the Canto after you teleport with Wings of Mercy, and that is one of the standout things about this weapon, and that's why it's going to be a pretty nice option on these dancers. Now of course Tethys can always run Temari Dagger for the debuffs, but still this is a pretty nice option. Back to our boy Sothe. He does have 172 BST and he has got base 39 attack and base 41 speed, which is definitely not bad having super boon in both of them, and he's a 4-star focus unit of this banner, so it is going to be a bit easier to plus and merge him compared to the other 5-star logged units. And that's something you can do if you're a big fan of him. He also has Susparo 2 at 4 stars, so he can give you decent fodder, and also has Attack Defense Rain and Harsh Command Plus at 5 stars. So Harsh Command Plus can be a pretty nice skill for arena scoring, and Attack Defense Rain is an amazing skill. Unfortunately, cannot really inherit the rain skill and the weapon at the same time. Overall, Sothe can function as an offensive flyer with his stat spread and this weapon, but this year, Summer Claude has definitely set the standards pretty high for a 4-star focus, and he was also a dagger flyer. If you want to build him up on a budget, then you can just give him Desperation and Blade Session Secret Seal, and there are not too many options for range flyers, but Desperation is definitely a pretty nice budget option here, and you can run Moonbow as a special. But if you want to invest a bit more into him, then you can of course run Attack Speed Catch 4 and Half Speed Defense Rain as the premium options, and Aerobatics can make for a pretty nice option even with the Canto weapon, because like I said, this is not like the Fortress skill, it is still going to be giving you the Canto after you teleport. You can also run him with an even more expensive build with Attack Speed Unity and Attack Speed Oath 4. So the Oath 4 skills are pretty incredible for giving you the extra offenses, the visible buffs, and also the teleportation, so you don't really have to run Aerobatic Sacred Seal or even run that in a slot B, and you can always run some other skill in a slot B. Hopefully in the future we can have some better options. But as of right now, Guard can be a pretty decent option so that he doesn't eat a special after attacking some kind of tank who can retaliate back with a special. So it's not the worst thing for a slot B skill, and certainly an option. And with the visible buffs that he can get, the Unity skill can protect him against the panic and the offensive debuff, so it does have pretty good synergy. And Lethality is the premium special for any kind of dagger unit, even though it's not going to be as easy to pre-charge it. Courtly Fan from Divine Codes can be a pretty nice option which can provide you with the partial null follow-up, which can allow you to run Wind Sweep, double attack, and still not get counter-attacked. It is of course not going to be having the Canto like his weapon, but still it can be a pretty nice alternate build that he can run. At max investment, he can also run Speed Preempt just like Leila and Nina, and these kinds of range units who already have Canto in their weapon, they don't have a lot of slot B options, and at max investment this can definitely be an option with Speed Smoke 4 so that he can get that damage reduction in case you do not kill with Speed Preempt. So it can be a way to emulate what Brave Pilot does on a much lower scale basically. And Sothe is going to be fast enough to get the speed check out of Speed Preempt, so you can definitely run this. And then finally at max investment, if you want to use them in arena, then the Canto weapon is really useful here because the flat Canto can at times help you a lot more than the Fortress skill, and you can also run Chill Defense Res if you want to have the max scoring, because his slot B is rather open and flexible, so you can definitely run it to get the max scoring, and then Attack Speed Oath 4 can provide you with the teleportation. Definitely a pretty expensive build, and you can also run Lethality if you want to, but Ruptured Sky is going to be a bit easier to trigger. Thief Cath is a Blue Mage Cavalier with Lofty Leaflet as her preferred weapon. This also has Canto 3x3 built into it, so she can teleport in any kind of 8 tiles in that grid, and that can definitely be pretty nice to free up her slot B skill from running any kind of trace skill. This weapon does give her +3 speed, and she can also get +6 attack and speed in combat, and also deal true damage based on 15% of her speed. And finally, she also has Freya's Binding Necklace built into this weapon. Now Freya's Binding Necklace basically punishes the opponent if they have any kind of buffs, and you're essentially going to be stealing their buffs. So very in-theme weapon for Cath here. So overall, this weapon is going to be helping her in the game modes where visible buffs are going to be common, and she does have 37 base attack and 43 base speed. With the kind of Mage Cavalry nukes that we have seen, Cath doesn't really stand out that much in terms of nuking potential, and she does have Canto built into her weapon, which is pretty unique, and the Binding Necklace can definitely help her in many matchups. But like a lot of mages and mage cavaliers, she's going to be struggling to get past a lot of the common far-safe tanks, especially if they run Hardy Fighter and Deflect Magic. If you want to build up Cath on a budget, then you can just give her Desperation, and this is going to be a nice budget skill for her, and you can just run Glimmer as her special. She does have Blue Feud, which is definitely going to be helpful against Brave Hectors and Ascended Eduns, and Blue Feud is definitely one of the better feud skills to have because of the targets which are going to be quite common. You can also run Guard on her slot B and also run something like Sparrow, which doesn't really have chip damage like the push skill, and she could be used in Summoner Duels S, where visible buffs are going to be quite common, especially with Duo Dagger's button. So the Binding Necklace effect can be in full force here from her weapon. And Guard is going to be helpful so that you don't really charge up the specials of the safe tanks again. And Loud skills actually don't have good synergy with her weapon because of the Binding Necklace in her weapon. So you do want the visible buffs on the opponents. So that's why her options are even more limited than a lot of the Mage Cavaliers in terms of what slot B skills she can run. You can also run Windsweep on Cath in Aether Raids defense, especially in the Dark Season with Brattle Katria. And with the Windsweep, she's not going to be susceptible to the counterattacks of the physical units. And Blue Feud can definitely be pretty nice against a lot of Brave Hectors. And in the Light Season, people are going to be using Peony and people are going to be using a lot of visible buffs. So the Binding Necklace of Cath is again going to be helping her in this game mode. Finally, at max investment, Speed Preempt is one of the few skills that she can also run in her slot B. It is definitely a pretty expensive option, and she can also run Speed Smoke 4 because the damage reduction can definitely help you in case you do not kill the enemy, and you can also use her in Arena with B Dual Cavalry 4. Rickard was the Tempest Trial Reward from this patch, and he is a sword flyer with 176 BST with Florid Cane Plus as his preferred weapon. Florid Cane Plus does have Neotrace built into it, and it also provides you with +5 attack and speed in combat. So this is going to be an amazing weapon for any kind of sword dancer, especially with Wings of Mercy, because even after you teleport, you're able to canto one space, and that can be really helpful in many of the game modes. So Olivia has not really got any kind of weapon refine, and Florid Cane is basically going to be the best weapon that he can run on her. And Sylvia is often used as a Gale Force dancer in Aether Raids offense. With Asker, you can get 4 cooldown Gale Force and get the counter effect out of Florid Cane, and this can definitely help you a lot in Aether Raids offense with the Gale Force team because you can position better, and especially after teleporting, you can pretty much use this effect to test some of the traps, which is going to be really amazing and creating more space for the other Wings of Mercy allies. You can also run this on a flyer like Tanith, for example. So instead of running a trace skill in their slot B, you can just get the canto out of this weapon and then run a different skill like Flow Guard, for example. This skill can also be run on sword infantry units, and for a lot of sword infantry units, this is going to be their best weapon because infantry units do not have access to the canto skills. So this could be run with a player phase build, and it could also be run on cavaliers like Kent, for example, who are pretty offensive, and it does have good synergy with the hit and run skill because you can essentially get more retreat option with this skill. And similarly, it is also going to be having good synergy with close call on these sword infantry units. Rickard's fodder outside of this weapon is not really all that impressive, and funnily enough, he has got super boons in all of these stats except for defense, and most of the time you're going to be using super boons in his speed and attack, and he is basically like a side grade to Tanith. He's like the Grail version of Tanith pretty much. He does have extra offenses compared to Tanith, but Tanith does have more resistance and a bit more HP, and Tanith doesn't really require any kind of grails and doesn't need any kind of trade fruits. Both of these also do not have any kind of preferred weapons, so their performance is going to be quite similar. If you want to build up Rickard on a budget, then you can simply give him Fury 3 and also run Hit and Run. Like I said before, Hit and Run does have good synergy with the canto built into Florid Cane and can provide you with more retreat option essentially. And if you want to invest into him heavily, then Dive Bomb is going to be an option with a player phase build, so you can still get the canto while running Dive Bomb thanks to Florid Cane, and you can also run Flow Guard and a more player phase oriented build. So Florid Cane does have good synergy with movement increasing skills as well, like Odd Tempest for example. So you can just run a player phase build with Surge Sparrow and Flow Guard and Blade Session and heal up HP by using Moonbow and still being pretty bulky because of the guard effect that the flow skill can provide. You can also run him with Wyvern Flight if you want to have a more mixed phase option, so he can get the debuffs in both player phase and in the enemy phase, unlike the flow skills. And he can definitely invest into his defense. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a defense super boon, which would have been pretty nice for this build. And with Attack Smoke 4, Wyvern Flight does have pretty good synergy. You can also use him with the other Smoke 4 skill and Speed Smoke 4, and Flow Refresh could be run Even though it is only going to be active in the player phase, it could still be a nice option to get the healing. And finally in Arena, he can also run attack speed Oath 4, and Flow Guard is going to be helping you in many of the matchups, especially against units who can retaliate back with their specials, and if they have any kind of follow-up negation effect. You can also run Guidance to increase the mobility of your team, which is always going to be nice if you run a flying unit in your core. Overall, this banner is passable for most people, especially because we got Choose Your Legends banner, and Duo Nina is basically the standout unit from this patch. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps out tremendously, and if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as all of the Kanto skills against Kanto control. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.